Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. I'm once again filming under daylight. I finally have enough daylight to film again. And in order to celebrate the occasion, I decided I would return to the How to Write series, with a look at how to write urban legends. And that is not to say that is not necessarily about this video is not supposed to be necessarily about how to write an urban legend for your story, but rather it is about how to integrate an urban legend within whatever it is you're writing. Before I go any deeper into the topic, I think it's helpful to define terms for the sake of this video. I'm not going to use any dictionary definition to delineate what an urban legend is, because most of these definitions sound the same anyway and don't really say anything about the literary value of an urban legend, both as a text in and of itself and as a storytelling device within a larger text. For the sake of writing fiction, I think it's helpful to consider urban legends as basically as memes. An urban legend, if you think about it, is a snippet of information of dubious veracity that people share with each other because of one of three reasons mostly. They either think it's cool, they either think it reflects their values in some way, or because they think it tells something about the community they find themselves within. In pre-urban times, or in times before most or a sizable part of the population lived in cities, what we now think of as urban legends would have been campfire stories or old wives' tales. In modern times, what people in the past would have called urban legends are mostly told through forums or message boards. Whether or not that still makes them urban legends, given that they no longer disseminate within one singular concentrated urban area, I will leave up to you to decide. In its inception, an urban legend is either a rumor or, if it's particularly preposterous and unreal, a joke. If it manages to survive in the wild for long enough, i.e. if enough people tell and retell it to each other for, say, a generation or two, then it becomes folklore. Think about the Mothman or Mrs. Leary's cow as examples. Urban legends don't necessarily have to be horror themed, but for a variety of reasons, thrills and plausible deniability being chief among them, most of the urban legends that do persist tend to be horror themed. However, keep in mind what I said a little bit earlier. Urban legends are memes, and as such, they are subject to change in the same way memes are subject to change. They can be altered or decontextualized in some way from how they initially appeared. Therefore, any version your readers or your characters encounter is very likely to not be the first version of the urban legend. There are two questions that arise from that, for the sake of your story. Number one, what makes that particular version of the urban legend that your story is spotlighting the one that managed to stick around? What does it tell you about the community? And I'm not necessarily, or the story itself. I'm not necessarily talking about how you can use it to hint towards plot development. I am more thinking about how you can use it to characterize the community itself or the people within it. What kind of values do the people hold, or what kind of imagery do they find to be particularly striking? You don't necessarily have to map out the entire development of the urban legend, unless somehow its development becomes a plot point. But you do need to consider what makes that particular version of the urban legend a part of the intellectual ecosystem, or collective unconscious if you prefer, of that particular community, and of the story as a whole. Now that we've cleared the Watsonian perspective on urban legends, the next question should clear up the Doylist perspective. How can you, as an author, employ urban legends within your writing? As far as I've been able to figure out, and I know this is not an exhaustive list, so if you have any other suggestions, I look forward to reading them in the comments. There are three basic ways you can use an urban legend within your story. Either as foreshadowing, as thematic enhancement, or as setup. Foreshadowing is, I think, the simplest and most widely circulated version of that. You have an urban legend that says that in a given situation, something will happen. And some of the characters will find themselves in a similar situation to the one in the urban legend, and are likely to experience a similar outcome to the urban legend. It's a pretty simple Chekhov's gun, only with narratives instead of props being set up. The second aspect of how to use an urban legend, thematic enhancement, refers to how you can use the urban legend to either reflect or contrast the message that you are trying to write within your novel. So therefore you can use it to say something about the message you're trying to convey. That urban legend, regardless of how you decide to use it in order to enhance the theme, will have either its detractors or its defenders. And it is your job as an author to come up with an argumentation either for or against it, depending on whether or not you want to support it or dismantle it. And note that doesn't necessarily mean actual arguments. It could mean that the characters within given situations are proven wrong, for whatever that looks like. I don't know. This will not be your story, but it will be mine. This is not my story, but it will be yours. So you should know how to how such a thing could work. The third possibility, setup, works pretty similar to foreshadowing, except you don't necessarily have to have the same follow-through as the urban legend itself has. You can spin it off in a wide variety of directions. However, whatever direction you choose still has to be anchored in the possibilities that the characters of your story and hopefully also the readers themselves are able to identify on their own. Maybe there are two different versions of the urban legend and only one of them can be true. Maybe the legend is only partly correct in that it was meant to protect against an evil influence, but it was a more mundane or natural evil rather than a supernatural one. Hashtag every religion ever. Or maybe it is part of a larger narrative meant to support or justify a social situation which benefits some at the expense of others. Again, these are all just some possibilities, not an exhaustive list. You can surely come up with some other storytelling avenues, and I look forward to reading them. And yeah, that was my video on urban legends. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please leave a like, and maybe even share this video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to what it is I said in this video, not just what I previously mentioned, but in general, maybe I don't know, talk about my hair or something, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My debut novel, Heir to the Empire Next Generation, is available at most major book retailers under a master link in the description below, right past my social media. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. I also suggest you check out my social media. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.